Take you to Nicosia in Cyprus, where the EU foreign policy chief is speaking after a meeting with Arab leaders and the European Union discussing the Iran conflict and tackling also the rising energy prices. This is the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen.
Without tolls. It is equally clear that any peace agreement will have to address Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program. The events of the last 7 weeks have shown the real danger that a nuclear Iran would pose to the world. My message today to our partners were two. First, I wanted to reaffirm our absolute solidarity with our partners in the region. A key lesson of the past weeks is that security is indivisible. You cannot have stability in the Middle East or the Gulf while Lebanon is in flames. So we call for the respect of Lebanon's sovereignty and territorial integrity. A temporary pause is not enough. We need a permanent path to peace. And on the way, we will continue to support the Lebanese people. 6 EU humanitarian air bridge flights have delivered over 250 tons of aid as part of the €100 million in humanitarian assistance. This solidarity among partners is mutual. I want to praise the leadership of Egypt and Jordan. Both are leaving no stone unturned to find diplomatic solutions to conflicts that affect us all. And I want to thank the Gulf states for their support, for example, to bringing EU citizens home safely. Europe will remember this. My second message is that in times of crisis, bonds grow stronger. Because we are not just partners in managing crisis, we are partners for the future. And this is why we held recently our first ever summits with Jordan and Egypt, and are reinforcing our strategic and comprehensive partnerships. We have big investment packages underpinning them, and I look forward to our first EU-Jordan investment conference later this year. Indeed, when President Costa and I were in Damascus in January this year, we announced a new political partnership with you, President al-Shara, with Syria. Earlier this week, we have proposed resuming the EU-Syria cooperation agreement. And in 2 weeks, we will host the first high-level political dialogue between Syria and the European Union, paving the way for a possible future association agreement. We will keep supporting the revival of Syria's economy and the reconciliation of its society. Turning to the Gulf countries, last week the Secretary General of the GCC and I agreed that our partnership needs to become a broader geopolitical partnership. The EU-GCC summit later this year, I think, gives us the opportunity to do exactly this. We are also ready to team up with the Gulf countries to diversify export infrastructure away from solely the bottleneck of the Hormuz Strait. And now is the time to advance promising connectivity projects like IMEC, the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor. Finally, the events of the past month have taught us a hard truth. Our security is not just related, it is intrinsically linked. A threat to a merchant vessel in the Strait of Hormuz is a threat to a factory, for example, in Belgium. So today I propose that we move beyond reactive crisis management. First, we could consider expanding the scope of missions like Operation Aspides, evolving from mere protection to a sophisticated joint maritime coordination. Second, the threat of mass proliferation of drones and missiles is sadly a shared reality. We should set up a structural cooperation of scaling up defense production. So together, let us build a region where peace is not merely the absence of war, but the presence of a secure and prosperous future for all our citizens. Thank you very much.
President of the Lebanese Republic, Mr. Joseph Aoun, you now have the floor.
الرئيس صديق نيكوس، أود أولاً أن أتوجه بالشكر إلى جمهورية قبرص على استضافتها لهذا اللقاء في هذا التوقيت البالغ الأهمية.
I would like to address my thanks also for the role played by Cyprus in fostering a dialogue between the EU member states and the region. I would like also to express my sincerest gratitude to all the leaders for supporting Lebanon and standing by its side. This meeting, it was an important encounter. It was an opportunity to meet the important challenges confronting us in light of the dramatic unfolding events in the region. And that was a sign also to foster stability in order to make it sustainable in the region, with all the impact it might have on the energy security as well as navigation security in the Straits. On our side, we have expressed during the meeting the reality of Lebanon, the situation by which Lebanon is confronted with a war that came at a time where Lebanon had not even recovered from the past wars and problems. And this has strongly impacted the socio-economic situation. Lebanon is paying a high humanitarian price nowadays, with a very high flow of displacement and refugees, and all the pressure on the infrastructures in addition also to the vital sectors in the economic sector. Nevertheless, and in parallel, we said that Lebanon is not considering these matters from the angle of conflict, but rather from the window of opportunities, and we need to move in that direction. The region has high potentials in order to have economic integration, as well as interlink with services and trade. These are potentials that cannot be guaranteed in instability period. This is why we confirmed that the stability of the region. What happens in Lebanon is not exclusive to its borders, but it impacts also the region and its partners. Moreover, we confirm the importance of moving from crisis management to recovery through the consolidation of our partnership and cooperation with our European partners, not just only from the security level, but also investment, and in order to guarantee connectivity on the economic level between the region. And Lebanon is not excluded from this cycle. It is not only a country that is being faced with challenges, but as a partner also in stability in the region. We look very much forward to fostering this dialogue and to consolidating cooperation in the future in service of our mutual interests and those of our populations. Thank you.
President of the Syrian Arab Republic, Mr. Ahmed Al-Shara, the floor is yours.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, I would like to extend my sincerest gratitude to our partners in the EU for hosting us and for inviting us. Our meeting today is a moment of political maturity that is consecrating a new geopolitical situation with a framework of cooperation. We consider that this is a reality, that the stability and security of our region and Europe constitute geopolitical stability and equilibrium, and this is why it involves a lot of work together in that direction. We have those responsibilities in light of all the challenges facing all the peoples of the region and that are impacting the international trade, with the closing of the Hormuz Strait, which is considered to be a very big risk, danger also for in history, and that requests strategic action with this. We know that Europe needs Syria as much as Syria needs Europe. It is very important. It is inevitable because in order to guarantee security also and the supply chains in the world. Nonetheless, I would like to invite the international community to assume its responsibility vis-à-vis all the Israeli aggressions of all types, air, land, that are striking in our lands and territories, and to go back to the resolution of 1974. And this is why it is very important that the essence of recovery has its own impact also on regional stability for the partnership with Europe. This is why the commitment by Europe with the stability and security of Syria will lead to inevitably stop the aggressions of Israel on the Syrian territories and to stop violating all the sovereignty of Syria. On our side, we would like to confirm that Syria, that used to be room for struggle, is rather working for its people, and it wants its people to be a bridge also and a main pillar for the solution. Geography unites us, and partnership consecrates this. This is why we confirm our commitment also to the initiative of the 4 Cs, and this actually focuses on the importance of bridging Syria with Asia and the Gulf and Europe. What has been achieved today is a good start to pave the way for the 11th of the next month, whereby which we are going to inaugurate the very high VIP political dialogue with Europe, and we are heading towards this date in order to consecrate the strategic role of Syria that wishes to integrate also the European space and to foster cooperation and partnership with our friends. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, thank you very much. We conclude now the part of the statements. Thank you.
EU and Arab leaders holding a news conference there in Cyprus after discussing the Iran conflict and rising energy prices. We heard from the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, as well as from the Lebanese President Joseph Aoun, and lastly from the Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara. Let's bring in Rory Challands, who's in Nicosia, for us. Rory, what is the message from the leaders gathered there?
Well, I think one of the questions that's been hanging over this conference is, does Europe still have relevance in the Middle East? As the region goes through a huge upheaval, huge turmoil, the war started by the United States and Israel, what role can the EU play in trying to diffuse tensions and bring things back to some degree of normality? This is at a moment where many people are questioning whether the EU still has a voice, still has power in the Middle East. And I think the visitors who've come here, the people that we've just been hearing from in that press conference there, they are part of that answer. They are part of Europe's attempts to maintain its diplomatic voice and its diplomatic agency. So, yes, we heard from Ursula von der Leyen there talking about how the Straits of Hormuz are vital, that what happens there has an impact in factories in Belgium, for example, and that working together with countries like Egypt, like Lebanon, like Syria, the GCC countries, Europe has to take on its responsibilities in making sure things get back to normal. Each of these countries has its own challenges, of course, and so Joseph Aoun, the Lebanese president, he was talking about what happens in Lebanon is not just confined to Lebanese borders. It spills out. It has ripples. And Ahmed al-Shara, the Syrian president, he was saying that Israel is striking repeatedly inside Syria, that Europe has to meet its responsibilities in essentially calling that out. But I think what all of these people speaking together showed was that this crisis that is happening at the moment in the Gulf region and in Iran, it affects everyone, and everyone needs to come together to try and find a way through it.
Yeah. On Iran, Rory, we heard from the German Chancellor earlier, who said that the European Union was willing to gradually lift some of the sanctions on Iran if a comprehensive agreement is reached with the US and Israel. How significant would that be?
Well, that would be hugely significant. That would be a re-entry of Iran into the international system, a system that it has effectively been excluded from for years. That was always part of the JCPOA as well, the nuclear agreement reached in 2015 that effectively traded a reintegration of Iran for Iran, putting on hold or on pause its nuclear ambitions. That was the treaty that Donald Trump walked away from in 2018, and you can plot a fairly straight line from that moment to where we are today. Of course, the Europeans and the Americans, they were in accord back then in 2015 when the JCPOA was being drafted. They're not in accord anymore, and we heard earlier from Pete Hegseth, the US Secretary of Defense, he calls himself the Secretary of War, basically criticizing this kind of event, the kind of event that I'm at the moment, as silly talks. He said that Europe should basically be putting warships into the Strait of Hormuz, that it's in Europe's vital interests to get those waterways free and moving again. Of course it is, he's not wrong in that. And the Europeans do have warships that they have in the region. Of course, the Europeans take it in a different way. They think that the best way of diffusing the tensions, the best way of getting the global energy supplies moving again is after the fighting has stopped. Then they are proposing that these two naval missions that they have operational at the moment, Aspides and Atalanta, that have been going on for 2 years now, that those can be beefed up. But there is still clear water between the American view of what Europe should be doing and what Europe is capable and willing to do at the moment.
Rory, thank you very much for that. That's Al Jazeera's Rory Challands reporting there from Nicosia in Cyprus.